Okay. So what I'd like to do tonight is I'd like to take this opportunity to discuss some of the lessons that we learn from the counting of the Omer, and to really apply them to how we should approach our spiritual growth in general. I think there's a number of lessons we can learn from uh, the mitzvah to count the Omer, and the way the mitzvah was given, and some other factors as well. And then, because this is, as we mentioned last week, this is supposed to be a time of spiritual growth, when we look at how the Torah tells us to go through this time period of spiritual growth, that will give us some lessons which I think we could apply to our general spiritual growth. When the Jewish people left Mitzrayim, they were on a very low spiritual level, and by the time they got to our Sinai, just 49 days later, they were on a very high spiritual level, and this was a time of growth, spiritual growth for them. And then for us also, it has the opportunity to be that spiritual growth. So, what lessons could we learn from that? So, the first thing that which I think it's important to take note of is that the Torah tells us to count 49 days, right? We count 49 days. Actually, the Torah actually says to count 50 days, which we'll discuss in a moment, but we understand that to mean count until you get to the number 50. We count these 49 days to get from Pesach till Shavuos. And like we just mentioned, that's really the process of that the Jewish people went of spiritual growth from a very low spiritual level to a very high spiritual level. And the fact that we have to count each day, and we don't just look up on the second day of Pesach and say, okay, 7 weeks from now we're going to get the Torah. The fact that each and every day that we're supposed to count again, I think that teaches us a very, very important lesson about growth. And that is that if a person really wants to grow, you can't just grow in leaps and bounds. Right? Real growth, real permanent growth comes from small but constant steps. Obviously, at the end, you'll have made great progress, but real growth comes from not taking huge steps. And often, when a person takes steps that are too big in their spiritual growth, I was just talking to someone today about this, then often it is not successful. But when a person takes small steps but constant steps, then that leads to true permanent. Uh, it leads to lasting and substantial growth. And therefore, the Torah tells us every day count another day. Every day count, grow a little more. Every day try to accomplish a little more. We discussed last night and last week the fact that there is a machlokas, there is a disagreement whether we look at the counting of the Omer as 49 individual mitzvos or one big mitzvah. And I think to highlight the fact that the opinion that it is 49 mitzvos really highlights this point that each day needs to be its own goal, and each day needs to be a separate goal. And besides for the fact that all these 49 days are building up to something, but if we look at each of them as its own day, that also tells us that we don't only need to focus on the goal, meaning it's not all or nothing. Each day on its own is an accomplishment. Each day on its own, when a person counts, each day when a person tries to grow, tries to improve, even if they didn't reach their final goal, each day on its own is a mitzvah. Each day on its own is an accomplishment. I think this is something which is very important, especially in the goal-oriented world that we live in, right? Where if a person is successful, then they get rewarded. If a person is not successful, it doesn't matter how much effort they put in, then they're not going to be necessarily rewarded. But when it comes to spiritual growth, that's not true. We don't say that if you didn't make it all the way to the end, if you didn't become a perfect person at the end of the day, then you haven't accomplished anything. Just the opposite. Each day is a mitzvah. Each growth, each step that a person takes each thing that a person does to try to improve themselves and try to make themselves a little better, besides for being part of the person's life journey, each step on its own is an accomplishment. Each step on its own is substantial, and each step on its own deserves to be to be celebrated. I think that's also the reason why when we count the Omer, we don't count down. Right? Normally, when you're counting to something, so you count down. I remember one of my friends was getting married, so his fiance gave him this countdown clock. Right? They buy this clock, and you set the clock. You set the clock to your wedding date, and then each day you can look at it and see how many days and minutes and seconds are there till your actual wedding. And normally when we're looking forward to something, we count down, right? There's 3 days left to this. There's 2 days left to this, right? If you're counting down towards the end of school, right? Oh, there's only 2 weeks left. There's only 1 week left. There's only 5 days left. 3 days left. 2 days left. Right? Anything if we're looking to the end of the lockdown, right? So we count down. We always, whenever we look towards something, we always count how much time we have left. But here, when we're counting from Pesach until Shavuos, when we're counting towards the receiving of the Torah, we don't count down. We don't start from 49 and count down to 1. 49 days left, 48 days left. We count up. We start with 1 and then we count until 49. So why is that? I think one of the lessons is teaching us is that we're building, right? Each day we're improving on the day before. So it's not just about counting down until how many days we have left until getting the Torah. The counting of the Omer is also counting up. Oh, we've accomplished 1 day of growth. We've accomplished a 2nd day of growth. We've accomplished a 3rd day of growth. And each day is its own accomplishment. Each day is an accomplishment. And therefore, each day we want to add to the previous day. We want 13 to be better than 12. We want 24 to be better than 23. We want 48 to be better than 47. We want to show that each day we're getting bigger and we're getting better, we're improving more, and we're accomplishing more. And I think, in general, when we talk about Avodas Hashem, in general, we talk about our divine service. This is something that is very significant, and different than, as we mentioned, many other areas of our life. In many other areas of our life, if we haven't reached our goal, then we haven't accomplished anything, right? If you're a lawyer in a trial, and you put in a tremendous amount of effort to win the trial, and you almost win the trial, but then you don't, so you lost the trial. That's it, right? If you're trying to build something and it almost works, but then it doesn't, so right now you have nothing. You don't have an accomplishment. Our spiritual growth is exactly the opposite. There really isn't such a focus on did I reach the destination. The main focus when it comes to our divine service is really all, did I put in the effort that I need to today? And that's why I think there is this effort. Right? When you count down, your main focus is on, did I reach the goal or did I not reach the goal? But when you count up, it's not a focus on did I reach the goal or not reach the goal. It's how much effort did I put in? How many days of growth do I have? How much did I accomplish? And how much have I done so far? And whether you reach the goal, you don't reach the goal, that's not as important as the effort that you put in each and every day. And if you think about it, right, again, like we said, each day is an accomplishment. Each day is a goal onto its own. Each bit of effort that I put in is a goal onto its own. We know the reward for one mitzvah, our sages tell us, is unimaginable. We can't imagine the reward even for one mitzvah. So each day that we count the Omer, each day of accomplishment, each day of growth is an unimaginable goal, an unimaginable thing that we've accomplished, and therefore that needs to be celebrated. But we of course we want to have our eye on the final goal as well. Of course we don't want to lose sight of the end goal as well. But having your eye on the goal, having your eye on the final result, is not meant to say that if you don't reach it, then you haven't accomplished anything. Each day that we've accomplished something is a goal unto its own. And perhaps that's why we don't just count the days, we count the weeks as well. Why there's a specific commandment, the Torah tells us count 50 days, but then it also says to count 7 weeks. Why do we have to count both days and weeks? So I think that's another major lesson when we're talking about growth, when you're talking about spiritual growth, that yes, each day you need to push yourself a little more, and each day is an accomplishment, and each day you need to move a little further, you need to grow a little bit each day. But if you're only focusing on today and you don't set bigger goals for yourself, then you're not going to grow. So if you want true growth, then you really need both things. You need to have the constant growth. You need to have the constant small steps that you're taking. But then you also need to look, okay, what are my long-term goals? What do I want to accomplish in the long term? And whatever a person is working on at that moment, in whichever area a person wants to improve, so they need to make small goals in the immediate future. Then they also need to set, well, where do I want to end up? What do I want to do at the end of the day? Right? Let's say a person is trying to become a more kind person. So you can set goals for yourself every day. I'm going to do one act of kindness every day. But then also think about, well, where do I want to be at the end of the day? What do I want to accomplish? When I say I want to be a giving person, what does that mean? How do I see myself at the end of the day when I've finished working, or when I've reached a milestone in my growth in becoming more of a kind person? How do I see myself? I want to be the type of person who could give all their time and not expect anything back, right? That I can, whatever the goals that a person sets for themselves. So a person, when they're trying to have spiritual growth, when they're trying to attain spiritual growth, it's about both setting the small goals, but then setting bigger goals as well. Both are important. And again, not to say that if a person didn't reach their bigger goals, they haven't accomplished anything. But if you do want to have continued growth, it's not enough just to have small goals. You have to have larger goals as well. You have to have your eye on the prize at the end of the day as well. And when we count the Omer, really what we're counting is measurements of time. And I think that's a very important factor. It's a very important thing to point out, because we tend to look at time as something that just is. It's something that's just there. We're passing through time. But the truth is, time is really much more than that. Time is a resource that we could use or not use. Right? It's a famous, I guess you can call it a philosophical question that is asked. That, let's say you were given every day, right, into your bank account would be deposited $86,400, and every day you get $86,400 deposited into your account. The only rule about it, though, is that it's use it or lose it. If you use the $86,400, then that's fine. But at the end of the day, whatever is not used is taken back. So we try to take advantage of every dollar. We try to use every dollar in a positive way for our own needs, for the needs of others, to give to people, because it's use it or lose it, right? If you have money in your bank account, okay, if I don't use it today, then I use it tomorrow. But if you know that the money is going to be removed if I don't use it today, you're going to try to take advantage of every penny and find a way to spend every penny because you don't want to lose it. So that $86,400 really represents the seconds in the day. There's 86,400 seconds in the day, and that's use it or lose it. It's not just time is not just something that's there. Time is something that's given to us. Time is a resource that we have. And when we count a day, really what we're saying is, okay, we've used this day productively. We've used this day for something positive, and we've grown spiritually today. And if we don't count the day, not just actually counting the day, but if we don't actually use this day as an opportunity for growth, so then it's not just that we didn't get something, we've actually lost something. We had something and it was taken away from us. The expression of killing time perhaps is more appropriate than people generally think, because time is something that's there. It's something that you can use, and when you don't use it, when you, so to speak, kill time, you're taking a resource that you could have used and you're flushing it down the toilet. You're taking something which you could have used for something positive, and instead of using it, you're wasting it. You're destroying it. You're killing it. And if we look at time that way, if we look at every second of the day that we have as something that was given to us to use, and we could either use it or we could not use it, I think we'll take our time more seriously. So I think that's another lesson of counting the days, of counting time, is saying, okay, we've taken this day and now we've put this day in our bank account. We've used this day. Now this day is ours because we've used it for something positive. As we mentioned before, so when we talk about counting, so the Torah actually doesn't say to count 49 days, which is what we do. The Torah actually says to count 50 days. So why does the Torah say to count to 50 days? And first of all, if the Torah says to count to 50 days, why don't we count the 50th day? So the Gemara says something interesting, which I think really touches on a lot of the points that we've just mentioned. The Gemara says, the Talmud says, that what is it when the Torah says to count 50 days, really what it means is count until you get to 50. Right? Count until you get to 50. So once you count and you got up to 49, you've gotten up to 50. You don't actually need to count the 50th day. But what does that mean? What does it mean we count up to 50, but we don't actually count the 50th day? So one thing I think that means is like we've mentioned, that the point is not the goal. The point is not, it's not a pass fail. The point is not, did I reach the goal? Obviously, the more you do, the better it is. But really, the main point is not the 50. The main point is not the goal. And that's why we don't even count day 50, because it's not about getting to 50. It's about putting in the effort, putting in 49 days of effort. And if you put in 49 days of effort, then you've accomplished your goal without even highlighting the fact, without even noting the fact that you've gotten to day 50. Because the goal of the purpose of getting to the goal is not that, okay, now I'm at the goal and I'm done. First of all, you're never done. There's always more work to do. There's always more to improve. But the point of getting to the goal is not that I'm at the goal. The point of getting to the goal is that I put in the effort and I worked on myself and I tried as much as I could to improve myself. It's so much more about the journey and not the goal. And the reason for that is obvious, because the goal is not necessarily always within our capabilities to accomplish. Right? No matter what goal we set for ourselves, sometimes we're set back by certain things which don't allow us to accomplish our goal. A person set a goal for himself to become a more kind person, but perhaps there were personal tragedies which got in the way of them doing acts of kindness. If a person sets a goal to go out every day and meet people and help people, so there could be a worldwide pandemic which makes them have to stay in their house and not be able to interact with people the way that they should. So the goal is not always attainable, and the person who's asking us to put in the effort, he's the one who decides whether we're going to be able to accomplish that goal or not. And therefore, if we can't accomplish that goal, it's not always our fault. What is our fault, what is our responsibility, what is in our control is not necessarily the goal, it's the effort. And that's what Hashem wants to see from us. Right? Hashem says to us, whether you're going to accomplish your goal or not, whether you're going to make it 100%, so that's partially dependent on me. And therefore, I don't grade you on that. I don't grade you on whether you reach the goal or not, if I'm the one who controls whether you reach the goal or not. But what I do grade you on, what I do expect from you is to put in the full effort. And therefore, that's why the focus is on the 49 days, which get us to the 50, but not necessarily to the 50. When the number 50 also in Kabbalah represents going above and beyond the laws of nature. Whenever we talk about nature, whenever we talk about the laws of nature, it's usually has something to do with the number 7. Right? We have 7 days in a week. there are many aspects of nature which are represented by seven, without getting into that now. But seven in Kabbalistic teachings is always represents nature, and therefore eight is going above and beyond the laws of nature. For example, on Hanukkah is 8 days long because there the miracle of Hanukkah was that the laws of nature were defined. They went above the laws of nature. Um, so the same way that seven is represents laws of nature, and eight means going above and beyond the laws of nature. So 7 times 7 also represents the ultimate of nature. And then when we have 7 times 7, which is 49, which is actually what the Torah tells us to do. The Torah doesn't just say to count 49 days or to count 50 days. The Torah says count 7 units of 7. I count 7 weeks, which is counting 7 units of 7. And then when we reach day 50, so now that we've reached the ultimate of physicality, when we go to day 50, that's the ultimate, that's going above and beyond in an ultimate way, the laws of nature, and reaching the ultimate spirituality, which makes perfect sense when we think about what happens on day 50. Day 50 is when we got the Torah, right? Day 50 is the revelation of Mount Sinai, which the way our sages describe the events of, and even the Torah itself, the way the Torah describes the events of the revelation of Mount Sinai, there was nothing physical about it. It was completely a spiritual experience. And then that's when we got the Torah, which is also not a physical book. The Torah is completely ruchnius, the Torah is completely spiritual. So we count 7 times 7, which represents the laws of nature. And then we get to day 50, which is above and beyond the laws of nature. And first of all, it's another reason why we don't actually count day 50, because anytime we're dealing with something spiritual, we're dealing with something which is can't be defined as just the sum of its parts, right? When you get to 49, 50, which means reaching a level of spirituality, it's not just 49 plus 1. Spirituality is something that transcends completely the laws of nature. And therefore, 50 is not just one more than 49. 50 is in a totally different realm because we've left the physical realm and gone into the spiritual realm. It's much more. That's why we can't count 50. That would imply that it's just one more than 59, when really it's a lot more. But when you think about what we're trying to accomplish, so the Torah tells us, count these 50 days and go from being something physical to being something spiritual. How do we do that? How do we count in a way where we're counting through, we're building up on physicality till we've reached the climax of physicality, and then we transcend from physicality into spirituality? It seems like something which is totally impossible. It seems like something which is totally unattainable. And the truth is, based on the normal way the world runs, it is impossible. We can't transcend physicality. We're physical beings, and therefore we have to live within the laws of the physical world. Transcending from the physical world into the spiritual world is something that's really impossible. But the truth is, right, that really is, in general, that is our divine service. Our divine service in general represents somewhat of an impossible journey. The Gemara tells us that Hashem gave us a Yetzer Hara. Hashem gave us an evil inclination, and really we shouldn't be able to overcome that evil inclination. We shouldn't be able to resist the temptations of the evil inclination, but Hashem helps us. Hashem helps us. With Hashem's help, when we put in the effort, we're able to do it. So why did Hashem give us temptations that are too strong for us to overcome? And then He says, I'll help you overcome it. Just give us lesser temptations that we could overcome. But I think, again, this highlights the same point that we've been discussing, that it's not about the goal. It's not about beating the evil inclination. It's about putting in the effort. So that's why God says to us, I'll give you an impossible goal. Overcome the evil inclination. I'll give you an impossible goal. Transcend physicality and become completely spiritual. That's the goal I'm giving you. Yes, and I know it's impossible because I don't want you to reach the end. That's not why I'm telling you to do this. I'm giving you this goal because I want you to put in as much effort as possible. It's like if the it's like if a person would go through military training and they would be put in a situation where the goal is not to figure it out. The goal is not to, you know, reach the end of the course. They made it impossible because they don't care whether you get to the end or not. They want to see what you're going to do along the way. It's like being in an escape room where it's impossible to get out, but still you're being tested by people to see not if you can get out or you can't get out. Maybe you can't get out, but the point is we want to see what you could accomplish along the way, and it's not really what Hashem wants to see from us, but it's about really us seeing in ourselves. It's about us pushing ourselves to see and to teach ourselves and to show ourselves what we could accomplish. So maybe that's why Hashem gives us this impossible journey of transcending physicality. It's something we're not able to do on our own, and Hashem says, "Put in the full effort, and then I'll help you along the way, and I will help you get to the goal. I will help you reach your goal at the end. So you put in the effort, and you get as far as you could, and then I'm going to take you across the finish line." And I think that really the final thing to keep in mind when we talk about change and we talk about growth, and this is also something I think we see from the constant growth and the constant effort and the constant push, is that although we live in an instant gratification world, we live in a world where anything we want is literally at our fingertips, right? Especially in today's world, right? Anything that you need to buy, you don't have to get off your couch. You can get all your groceries, you can get all your clothes, you can get anything that you need just from the touch of a button sitting on your couch. And we live in a world where anything that we need, we have access to. Anything that we need, that we can get. And we're always looking for shortcuts. We're always looking for easier ways to do things. And a lot of technology is really focused on that, is making shortcuts and making things easier, which is not a bad thing, but it's not something that we should transfer over to our spiritual growth. And when we're talking about spiritual growth, there's no app to get you there. There's no app there's no program, there's nothing you can do to say, okay, this is I'm just going to skip all the steps and I'll just get to the end, right? If you want to get to the end, you need to build day by day. Change is hard, change is long, it requires effort, it requires time, it requires thought, it requires all sorts of things. And the only shortcut to spiritual growth is realizing that there is no shortcut. If you're looking for a shortcut, then you're never going to get there. The only shortcut is knowing that there is no shortcut, and you just have to put in the time day after day. You have to put in the effort day after day. You have to be smart and plan ahead and use all the resources that you have. And if a person does that, if a person takes the time and takes the energy and puts in the effort, so it's not just that Hashem tells us, if you do your part, then I'll do the rest. It's even more than that. There is no rest. When you do your part, when you do everything that you're supposed to do, that is the goal. When you put in full effort, it's not just that, Hashem considers it as if you reach the goal, even if you didn't. When you put in your full time, when you put in your full effort, that is the goal. And therefore, there's no shortcuts to effort. If Hashem wants to see your effort, there is no shortcuts to that. So let's take these days of Omer day by day. We've already counted a number of days, and we have a number of days still to count. So every day is a new opportunity for growth, is another opportunity to grow stronger and to grow better. And if we take advantage of each and every day, of each and every moment, of each of every opportunity, then we will accomplish amazing things.